So, are you ready for the next episode of the comics my mom let me keep? I am. We're going to do some various type of comic books in this edition, so stay tuned.
Anachronic.
Hi, comic book guys and gals. I'm Joe, and welcome to Anachronic Comics. So, for newbies, the comics my mom let me keep are the comics that I was allowed to bring to our new house after we moved out of our apartment in New York City. And in this episode, I'm going to show some various comic books from publishers like Dell, King, and some others. So, let's get started. Now, the first book I want to show you is Mars Total Patrol, War Number 3 from 1966. Now, this was a short-lived science fiction war comic published by Golden Key for 10 issues from July 1965 to August 1969. Now, the series got some attention when it was first published because the artist on the first 3 issues was Wally Wood, who co-created the series. It won some awards for non-superhero comic books when it first came in. It involved an invasion of the entire Earth by some entity from some alien entities. And they were opposed by MARS, M-A-R-S, which stood for Marine Attack Rescue Service Patrol, which was comprised of armies of all the Earth countries. So, the third issue, the title, which I have here, is changed to Mars Patrol Total War, and the last 2 words were reduced to very small print, as you can see. And it also was the last one illustrated by Wally Wood. Again, the final issue was number 10 from August of 1969. Now, Dell Comics was the comic book publishing arm of Dell Publications, or Dell Publishing rather, which got its start in pulp magazines. It published comics from 1929 to 1974, and at its peak, it was the most prominent and successful American company in comic books. In 1953, Dell claimed to be the world's largest comic book publisher, selling 26 million copies each month. Now, I was able to find a number of Dell comic books in the Comics My Mom Let Me Keep collection. The first is Neutro, which was just 1 issue in January of 1967. It's a robot from outer space. The next is Nucla. There you go. Now, Nucla is a fictional character that was published by Dell Comics in the mid-1960s. He was created by writer Joe Gill and artist Sam Trapani. There were other artists like Dick Giordano, uncredited, that worked on this particular character. Now, the character made his debut in Nuclear number 1. This is the October-December 1965 issue. Now, Nuclear has nuclear-based powers, somewhat similar to Captain Atom. Now, Nuclear only ran for 4 issues. And Steve Ditko, the artist of Captain Atom, did artwork for the last issue. Now, you know that Captain Atom is a fictional superhero that appeared first in the 1960s by Charlton Comics before being acquired in the 1980s by DC Comics. The next Dell comic is Superheroes, the Fab Four, number 1 from January 1967. Now, maybe this was an answer to the Fantastic Four. These are 4 teenagers that are able to move their minds into super-powered robots. Now, I wasn't able to figure out how many issues came out. This may have been the only one. So if you do know the answer to that question, please put it in the comments below. The next is Frankenstein number 2 from September of 1966. Now, Frankenstein lasted only 3 issues, and they were numbered number 2 to 4 and came out from September 1966 to March 1967. Issue number 1 was a 1964 adaptation of the 1931 movie. The art was by Tony Tallarico and Bill Fracchio. Interestingly, this Frankenstein was created in 1866, slept for 100 years, then woke up. He had his own mind, but found out that he was in this kind of Frankenstein body that had super strength and other powers. And the last Dell comic book that I found in my collection was Rat Patrol #1 from March 1967. Now, this was just based on the TV show of the same name. Next up is American Comics Group, or ACG. Now, American Comics Group, ACG, started in 1939, and it existed under the ACG name from 1943 until 1967. Now, it was the first publisher of ongoing horror comics. Its best knowns were Adventures into the Unknown. This was the first of a trilogy of ACG horror supernatural titles. It also included Forbidden Worlds and Unknown Worlds. Now, Adventures into the Unknown ran 174 issues. Its final release date was August of 1967. Now, first comic I have here is Adventures into the Unknown #154, which was the origin of Nemesis. It came out in February of 1964. And the second is Gasp #1 from March 1967. Take a look at that. Wouldn't want to be that guy. Next, I have a couple of comics from Archie Comics. Now, Archie's Silver Age relaunch of its superheroes under the Archie Adventures series imprint and then Mighty Comics imprint began with a new version of the Shield and two new characters, Jaguar and The Fly. Now, The Fly is a fictional comic book superhero that was first published in 1959 by Red Circle Comics. He was created by Joe Simon as part of Archie's Archie Adventure series, and he was drawn by Jack Kirby. Now, his origin story and first full-length appearance were Adventures of the Fly in August of 1959, and Simon and Kirby left the title after the fourth issue. Now, Adventures of the Fly was canceled with issue number 30 in October of 1964. Now, his own series was restarted as Flyman as part of Mighty Comics Group, which ran from issues 31, continuing the numbers, to September of 1966. So, here we have Flyman number 31 from May of 1965, which reintroduces the Golden Age Archie heroes in a team-up called the Mighty Crusaders, which consisted of the Fly, the Comet, Black Hood, and the Shield. Now, in this particular comic, when I opened it up and took it out, I found something interesting. I found a drawing that I made back in the day, where I guess I was trying to come up with what a Mighty Crusaders comic book cover would look like. So it's incomplete, but let me see if I can show it to you. It says the Mighty Crusaders at the top, and I started drawing the Shield. Not very good, I know. And here, it looks like I was starting to draw the Fly, but I didn't quite get this thing finished. But it's kind of cool to find this inside of a comic book. Three more. The next one's kind of interesting. It comes from MF Enterprises. It's Captain Marvel #1 from April 1966. It does say there's a Plastic Man story, but there isn't a Plastic Man story in there. Now, this Captain Marvel was a superhero that was published by Myron Fass. That's where MF Enterprises comes from. Now, the character is unrelated to the Fawcett Captain Marvel, the DC Shazam, or the Marvel Comics Captain Marvel. And he only appeared in a few comics in the late 1960s before legal challenges, as you might imagine, shut down the publisher. Now, Captain Marvel lasted for 4 issues, and this April issue was from 1966. Okay. The next one is an interesting one. It's from Stanley Publications, Battle Heroes. Now, the series began in 1962 with 2 issues. Issue number 1, from September 1966, right here, was a 68-page with 10 war stories in it. And the last one's a pretty interesting one, I think. It may be the oldest one in that Comics My Mom Let Me Keep collection. It comes from Mail Publishing Corporation. And actually, when I investigated this, I realized that it was an imprint of Marvel Comics. It was the same imprint that published Millie the Model and Love Romances. It was drawn by Jack Kirby. And Stan Lee was the editor and probably wrote the thing as well. Now, there were 70 issues published. And this is battle number 64 from June of 1959. And again, Stan Lee was the editor of it, may have written it, and Jack Kirby did the pencils on the cover, at least. That much I was able to determine. So that's the video. So if you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. Be well, and I'll see you soon.